Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another Gemstone Legends video. I've been seeing some questions about equipment and how to manage your inventory, and I think this is something that can be a little bit difficult to manage. So I came up with a list of 10 tips to help you avoid falling into this position or to help you decide what's important to keep and what can be let go of, because very quickly you'll end up with more equipment than you can deal with. It starts to spill over into your inbox, and that becomes really annoying to deal with. So this video will help you avoid falling into that trap, hopefully help you be more informed about equipment and what kind of stuff matters anyways, and just generally give you more information to go on here. So if you haven't checked out Gemstone Legends yet, there is a download link and promo code in the description of this video that will give you a nice starter bonus and get you off to a good start in the game. This is something that I didn't have when I started and something that Empires and Puzzles would never do. So it's a nice thing to be able to take advantage of, and a lot of people from Empires and Puzzles have come over to Gemstone Legends already. So make sure you're not late to that party if you are interested in checking it out, because it's always the early adopters that stake out their corner of the kingdom, if you will, and end up being some of the more dominant players. So yeah, be sure to check that out. You're going to download the game, complete the tutorial, enter the promo code within 3 hours of downloading the game after completing the tutorial, and you'll get your starter bonus that you can see up here on the screen. You'll also get access to some new beginner events, which will give you another guaranteed epic hero, Soliana, who's a nice hero to have, a full set of 5-star legendary artifacts from the caster set, which improves the mana gain of your heroes, kind of like mana troops from Empires and Puzzles. And you'll also get a platinum scroll, which is another guaranteed epic or perhaps legendary hero, but platinum scrolls have the highest chance for legendary heroes in the game. So if you've been curious, be sure to check it out. Information in the description down below, and let's get into our 10 tips. Okay, so the first tip is just to stay on top of it. Like I said, it can pile up pretty quickly, and if you don't do a little bit each day, it's going to quickly get overwhelming. And so when I say a little bit each day, it's maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds sometimes to look through some of this stuff. So it's very quick. It's not a big investment at all. It's just, it gets really annoying to deal with if it stacks up. And that's what happened to me, and I learned the hard way. So be sure to stay on top of it. Tip number 2 is look at all the pieces that you have in your inventory. You can see that I have nothing with that little symbol on it that shows that it hasn't been viewed yet. So be sure that you've looked at everything. This will relate to another tip that we'll give shortly. But when you do that, what you can do when you get new equipment, if you've been farming a lot or if you've been farming the Rift a lot, you can just go over to the new tab, which I can't click on because there's nothing there. And then you can see a simplified view of only the pieces that are new, and you don't have to constantly scroll through the entire thing. So it takes a little bit of time to do that the first time, but it's definitely worth the effort. And then this relates to tip number 3, which is if you haven't done this already, do a full sort with the tips that I'm going to give soon. And by full sort, I mean go through every piece and look at it. And I'm going to give you some criteria for how to determine what is good to keep and what is not good to keep. So some of these tips will be related, but it accrues before you know it. And at some point, you're going to have to go through and just do the full audit of your stuff. But the bonus to that is you get a bunch of coins from it. So if you're low on coins, this can be a way to get a few million coins with just, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes of your time or something like that. And then once you do it the first time, it's a lot easier to keep up because, one, you'll know all these tips, so you'll know how to sort stuff that's coming in the future. A lot of it can just be sold, especially if you're farming for XP. And there'll just be less to look at overall. So one more thing I want to mention before we look at those tips for how to decide what equipment should be kept and what should not. Tip number 4 is that equipment can be stored on heroes to not count towards inventory space. So if I go equip a set of 6 pieces of equipment or artifacts on a particular hero, it takes them out of my inventory. So you can kind of store an infinite amount of equipment on heroes Just make sure that you don't forget where you put them so you don't lose track of that set, and don't feed the hero away. I think it gives you a warning that you're about to feed a hero with equipment on it, but this can be a good way to store equipment if you have a lot of good pieces and you can't decide what to get rid of. I might recommend, if you do it that way, put a well synergized set, so a set that might go on a certain type of hero at some point. Like if you're like, oh, I plan on leveling up this hero next, but I'm not there yet, you can put that set on them. You can also just do it randomly, but at least this way you'll know, it'll be grouped already. You will have done the work. It's kind of like pairing up your socks before you put them away in the drawer. It's not totally necessary, but it can save you a little bit of time in the future trying to find that other sock. Okay, so these next few will depend on the quality and abundance of your equipment, so treat these as general suggestions and not hard rules. But this is all important stuff that you need to know to decide what equipment to keep and what equipment not to keep. So tip number 5, which is related to the previous 2 tips, is sell all common and uncommon pieces. So that would be white and green rarity items. You're almost never going to use those. So the one exception to this I don't know how to phrase this sentence, but the exception to that rule I just gave are for gloves, boots, or armor with a high rank and a good base stat. So to give you a quick refresher on equipment, the higher the rank, which is the number of stars, the higher the base stats start, the actual number. The higher the rarity, the more substats are revealed to you to begin with. So you can see you get 4 substats on a piece of equipment. If you look at something like a rare piece, you can only see 2 of them, and the rest unlock, 1 at level 9, 1 at level 12. So you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. But an exception to this can be, let's see if I can find one of these real quick. It can even be like high rank, low rarity. So here, for example, the substats are not that good. We got kind of lucky that we got speed and crit damage, but we got 50% crit rate, which is very valuable, especially on a really good set like Swift. So this can be an exception to the rule, and you can see I leveled these all the way up to 15 because crit rate is really valuable. It's the likelihood that you will hit a critical hit. So normally you'll sell all common and uncommon pieces, but if you have gloves, boots, or armor with a high rank, high number of stars, and a really valuable base stat like speed, crit rate, those things can be valuable to you and worth keeping. Ultimately, you'll replace these as you get better and better pieces, but these may be important for you in the short term. And if you have really good equipment, then you might be selling all rare stuff as well, if you can just afford to keep epic and legendary. But chances are, if you're watching this, you're probably not at that point yet. So keep that in mind. The next tip, tip number 6, relates to what I just talked about, and it is sell all gloves, boots, and armor without a percent-based main stat. So what does that mean? If we look at all these gloves, you can see the first stat is a percentage-based one. I don't have anything that isn't, I don't think, because I have gotten rid of them all by now. But gloves, boots, and armor can all have a percent-based main stat. The main stat is the one at the very top there. You can see this one is defense. This one is crit rate. Weapons, shields, and helmets can never have a percent-based main stat. So that makes gloves, boots, and armor all the more important. So if we look at these weapons, it's always going to be attack and not a percent-based main stat. Helmets are always going to be HP. Shields are always going to be defense. So with those ones, you're looking for these substats to be good. But with gloves, boots, and armor, or whatever you want to call this piece, you want to look for those percent-based main stats. So unless you are very, very new and have almost no equipment at all, you can go through and sell all the gloves, boots, and armor that do not have a percent-based main stat. They might have good substats, but ultimately they're not going to serve you as well as some other piece of that type. Another set of gloves, for example, that does have a percent-based main stat because that's going to be way stronger. Like if we look at this, 50% crit rate is way higher than you can ever get as a substat. So that's extremely valuable. If these had like attack like this, 124 attack, and then these other substats, this would not be a good piece. So having percent-based main stats on gloves, boots, and armor is really important. Unless you're totally hurting for equipment, you can sell everything that doesn't have a percent-based main stat for those types, gloves, boots, and armor. The next piece, again, like I said, these will depend on the quality and abundance of your equipment, so treat these as suggestions and not rules. But sell all 4-star and lower pieces, even if legendary. I'm sort of getting to this point myself, and I still have a few pieces that are 4-star. You can see one of them is on a hero that I'm using up here, but it does have some good stats for this hero. But yeah, sell all 4-star and lower pieces, even if legendary. If you're brand new, this might not be the best idea, but if you're brand new, you probably don't have an overflowing inventory either. If you do, then maybe sell all 3-star and below. But basically, the lower the rarity, the lower the numbers are, and the less impactful that piece of gear will be. So these are some general rules on how to deal with some of this equipment. Hopefully that all makes sense. If any of this seems confusing to you, go fire off a comment below right now and let me know what that is, and either myself or other players can help give you that information. I feel like this is a supportive community, both in the game Gemstone Legends and also on my channel, so I want to provide you with the information that you will find helpful. So hopefully this makes sense to all of you. If you found this information helpful, we still have a few more tips to go over, but be sure to go like the video and subscribe so that you don't miss any future uploads. It's also a free way for you to help support the channel and just to say thank you for this information. So if you wouldn't mind, I would greatly appreciate that. The last 3 tips are going to be for later game players for the most part, and these are, once you've done the other things that I've suggested so far, these are some strategies that you can then adopt. So there's kind of a sliding scale depending on where you're at in the game, how strict you're going to be. And I want to show you what some of the more strict views of equipment are as something to grow towards as your equipment sort of evolves, if you will. So you want to aim for as many percent-based stats as possible. What do I mean by that? If we look at this pair of boots, for example, we have speed that is maxed at 40. So boots are the only piece of equipment that can have speed as a main stat, which makes them very valuable for that, which is why I took these all the way to level 15. But we're looking at these substats. So in the substats, we have crit rate, which is a really good stat for any hero that does damage. We have defense, which is also a percent, and we have attack that's also a percent. So we have 3 percent-based substats, which is really good. Sometimes you can have maybe 4 that are not percent-based, and that is bad. The only substat that will never be percent-based is speed. That's always going to be just a single number, so don't let that count against a piece of equipment. As I level these up, you can see that defense went up twice, attack went up once. So even though we do have kind of a wasted substat for this attack here at the bottom that is not percent-based, at least our skills didn't push into that category, which would be a waste. So as you're looking through these again, you want to have as many percent-based substats as possible. In this one, we only have 2, and we have 2 that are not. And the reason why we want percent-based substats is because 6% defense is always going to be way higher than 29 defense, right? 29 defense is almost a complete waste. You know, maybe that's, I don't know, 1% or something. I can't do the math immediately in my head, but this is true even for artifacts or equipment that don't have percent-based main stats. So here's a great example. We have a weapon from the caster set. Main stat is just attack, not so great. We have 4% based main stats, which is really good. We are able to get what's called a quad roll on HP, which means every time we leveled up, it happens in multiples of 3 at 3, 6, 9, and 12. it went into HP. So this would be a really good weapon to put on a hero that does damage based on HP, because that's a huge boost. We also have crit rate, attack, and resistance in there as well. Here's another where you might get rid of this weapon depending on, again, how much space you have, how much competition there is. Even though it's a 6-star legendary weapon, we got a little bit into HP, a little bit into accuracy, and then we wasted 2 of our level ups. Obviously, this is random, so we don't have a choice, but we wasted 2 of our level ups on HP. So 1,000 HP, not going to contribute that much. Not really that good. Compared to what it could be. You saw that on that other piece, that was like 30-something% HP, which is going to be way more significant. So sometimes, even if I get a good piece, as I start leveling it up, if too many of those level ups get wasted on non-% based substats, then I might just sell it and move on. Because again, space is going to be an issue and there will be a lot of competition. So you want to only keep the best stuff once your space starts to get full. So the next piece for later game advice is to try to find synergy within a piece. This isn't essential, but like a shield, for example, from the, what's it called? Defender, I think? Guardian. A shield from the Guardian set that also has defense and HP might be a good synergy to have for a piece like that. I think I have something. So this one has defense. HP is kind of a waste. It's also got crit rate. This one has some more defense, some speed. So this is not essential, but it can help as you're trying to build a cohesive hero. So generally the defense set is going to go on support heroes who are going to need HP and defense. So if you have substats that play to that strategy, then it just allows you to build a little bit more of a cohesive build around that hero type. However, an exception to this is for heroes that deal damage based on defense, such as Sophia or Vigo, I think, is an epic hero that does damage based on defense. So those could be heroes where you do want to increase their defense, but maybe also want to have substats like crit damage, crit rate, or things like that, maybe accuracy in there too. So this synergy within a piece thing is not essential, but again, all this stuff as you move deeper into the game can help you decide what to deal with. So if you're newer, the tips that I mentioned at the beginning are going to be much more essential, but I want you to be able to sort of grow with this video as well. And as you get further along and your equipment gets better and better, which will happen, this will give you some information for that stage of the game as well. So the very final tip here is a repeat of tip 1 because of how important it is. So stay on top of it. It's really annoying to deal with all this stuff if you let it pile up, and it only really takes maybe 30 seconds a day after you do that initial sort. The initial sort is rewarded with all the coins that you'll get from doing so. But yeah, stay on top of it. So once you've looked at every piece, again, you can just click on the new tab. You can deal with stuff as it comes in there. But it gets really annoying to deal with. And one reason is because at this point, the inventory cap for equipment is 500. So once you fill it up, everything spills over into your inbox. If you're only able to clear 5 spaces in your inventory, for example, then you're having to pull pieces from your inbox 5 at a time into your inventory to look at them. So you will get to the point where it seems like, oh man, I just got a legendary piece of equipment. I don't want to get rid of it. If it doesn't meet the criteria we talked about and you don't absolutely need it right then, it's probably better just to get rid of it because you'll end up having to do it later at some point anyway. So it does feel harsh, and it felt the same to me where I got something good and then just sold it immediately. But you will get to that point and it will become more essential. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It helps other people find it, and it's something that I appreciate as well. If you are interested in more information like this, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of my future uploads. And if you're interested in checking out Gemstone Legends, like I mentioned before, there's a download link and promo code in the description. Use that download link, install the game, complete the tutorial. Within 3 hours of downloading the game, after completing the tutorial, enter that promo code #Spock_2021 hashtag. You'll get your free starter bonus. You'll get access to those beginner events, which will give you a lot more great stuff. And you'll be off to a good start in the game. So check it out alongside me. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.